The Griffins had accidentally been launched into space on one of NASA's rockets. And as they flew up into the atmosphere and into the vacuum of space, they started to panic. They looked out the window and saw the Earth was getting farther and farther away from them. They didn't know what to think. Chris had just gone to space school, and it resulted in this, and them being stuck in space. A few hours passed, and that's when the Griffins heard a voice come from the radio on the main computer. He said that he was a scientist and that NASA was trying to get them back to Earth safely, and that they shouldn't panic and that they needed to remain calm. The Griffins tried to, but it was a little difficult, seeing as they were still stuck in space. Eventually, more time passed, and it seemed that they weren't going home. The Griffins had lost track of time, and it could have been days, maybe even weeks, that they had been up there. The boredom was starting to get to them. There was nothing to do. And so, they just started to ignore one another. And after some more time, the Griffins wondered if NASA was really trying to help them, or if this was somehow some kind of an experiment. That part, the Griffins had gotten right. NASA wasn't trying to help. NASA was doing an experiment, seeing how long someone or a family could last in space, and to see how long they could survive. Eventually, more time passed, and the food started to dwindle, and the Griffins realized that they were going to run out of food soon, and they would starve to death. One day, Peter went to get some food, but when he opened the cabinet, it was empty. He looked all around, but there was no food in sight, and he realized what had happened. They ran out. Now, they were going to die of hunger. A few days passed, and the hunger started to get to the Griffins. All they could think about was food, and they started to look at one another in a weird way. The Griffins looked at Brian with a weird expression. That's when all of them attacked and killed Brian. And because of the hunger, they ate one of the members of their family. Brian lasted them for a few weeks, but eventually Brian was eaten as well, and there was no food. And that's when they all started to look at one another in an even crazier way than when they had eaten Brian. That's when they turned on one another, each member of the family trying to kill one of the other members in order to eat them. Eventually, the Griffins became so crazed that they killed one another, and the only remaining members of the family was Peter and Chris. Months upon months have gone, and they looked at one another, having eaten their family members. Lois was dead, Meg was dead, Stewie was dead, and Brian was dead. Eventually, Chris and Peter got into a struggle, and it resulted in the death of Chris, and Peter eating Chris. After many, many more months, Chris ran out as well, and Peter realized that his death was imminent. After about a few more weeks, Peter had died, and the scientists from NASA had watched all of this, and they said to one another that it was time for the next experiment, as this one was a failure.